So that is the hole that was left by this little beauty right here, which from right there doesn't really look like too much, but as we come around we begin to see it was a decent size stump, and believe it or not, that's only about really half of it. As you can see, it's burned on top, and tried burning this thing 2 or 3 times, trying to burn it down from the top, and it just wasn't having it. And so got out the old pickaxe and the shovel, and I spent some time on it. And I tell you, I'm sweaty and I'm sore. And I was hacking away at this thing, and I'm looking at this hole, and I'm looking at all those little burnt roots and broken roots, and I'm thinking about all the things inside of me, all the places where there's darkness and I don't know, hurt, confusion, maybe some anger. Been trying to work that stuff out over the years, but for some reason that stuff takes root in us, and generally the heavier the circumstance, the harder the circumstances, maybe even the earlier it happened in our lives, the more deeply it is rooted and the stronger it is in there. And I'm picking around this hole, and I couldn't see where the roots were. I'm swinging, I'm getting the shovel out for a while, hit something hard, can't really see it, get out this pickaxe, and I'm swinging, and I'm getting tired, and I'm getting dirt on me, and I'm out of breath, and I'm out of shape, but I'm getting after it. And as I'm doing this, I'm realizing, I kind of wish it was this easy, but it took me a good few days of different, over the course of a couple, well, at least a month, I'll say, of this right here, this hole in this stump. But there's another thing I've been working on, and that's me. That's my own internal stuff. That's the stuff that happened really early in life that gave me a sense of really coming down to the very bottom of it, that I don't really matter. And on top of that, some unwantedness, and then some unworthiness. And those beliefs are like, see those little roots right there? Those little teeny roots? Well, they've been just taking root like my whole life. And I'm by no means, neuroscientist, but I could see how that, little neural pathways in my brain, of all these little things, this one little thing here from somebody, another thing here somewhere, and they've been fed and reinforced into something bigger, into the bigger roots, and then to the stump, and most of this stuff it's below the surface. We can't see it. We're not sure exactly what's going on, and to get rid of that stuff, we don't even know. We're just scratching the surface of beginning to understand how we can, for lack of better words, fix, perhaps heal, perhaps, relearn meaning in our lives, and why we feel, the way we feel. Deep down inside, the stuff, more and more it's coming to light, right? What's really cool, this stump, this blackness, all those roots, all that mud, there's a hole, and right now there's light shining in it. That light shone into the darkness, and so now, I've got to fill this hole, right? It's right by the gate, and I'm actually going to be dragging a bunch of stuff through that gate in a little while, and I don't want to be trouncing through that hole. I'll be tripping and falling, and creating other issues. So now I've got to be smart about what I fill that in with, right? And the same thing with that inner part of me, right? What am I going to fill as I begin to, get down to the root of, man, I have felt, really like, I don't matter. I felt unwanted. I felt unworthy. And, I've masked all that for much of my life. I used to attach on to people, and I still do, obviously, but I didn't know it, but I would latch on to these things that would give me, a sense of meaning, a sense of mattering, and so whether early on, that's, your family, and then as you grow out in the world, your friends, and then, maybe the school things you do, or, the college you go to, right? That's when you're really breaking out on your own, you're leaving the family, and you go out into the world, and, maybe you go to a big name school, right? Because that, right? I mean, it gives you some worth, right? You went to this, whatever, big Ivy League school, so clearly you're important, clearly you're smart. But, I mean, ideally, you were that before you ever went to that school, right? It was a whole bunch of people that, envisioned that school, that worked at that school, that built that school, that attended that school, that went on through life and made their impact that give credence and credibility to the school, to the institution, right? So it was just a bunch of other people, like you, like us. And for me, I joined, I was trying to go to college, but, I didn't really care about it. So being lost, doing something, I ended up joining the Navy. In the U.S. Navy, at the time, it was, it was the Reagan era Navy. It was a 600-ship Navy. It was one of the greatest, navies and, fighting forces in modern history. And so I got to be part of that, and, just, one little teeny cog in a giant thing, and got out, got a job at a power plant and did some cool stuff, and got into racing later on, and of course I didn't realize it, but I was, kind of latching on to these, teams that, again, gave me some worth. I worked for one team, and a couple of team owners, and the drivers were, just racing dynasties, man, racing royalty. Just like, if you're into racing, you know anything about it, you know these names, you know these people if you've been alive in the Northern Hemisphere in any kind of first world capacity in the past, 20, 30 years. Then I went and joined another team, and then, same thing, this guy, just an icon, just incredible, like one of the greatest, competitive dynasties in all, modern humanity, and just in business as well. And I latched onto these things for meaning, right? These things I rooted into, right? These things gave me, a sense of worth. And these things also allowed me to go out into the world and be treated like I mattered. But it wasn't me that the people were treating. It was the thing on my shirt. It was the logo on my back. It was what I represented, or who I was the conduit to or for, but it wasn't me. And then I went out on my own, and I was pretty busy, being in the Navy. It's pretty busy. You're working all the time. There's a lot of long hours. You're gone. It's it's a bit selfless, I guess that's the way I call it, service. But, I was busy, and then I tried to, and then work, and again, if, you're a young man in America, you better go work hard and make your mark and make some money and prove your mettle and prove your worth. And man, I had a lot to prove, because I didn't know it at the time. For so long, I didn't realize how messed up I was. I didn't realize how really, truly kind of broken I was. And, I made a big mess of my life, and quite frankly, some other people's too. And you know who you are, and I apologize. I had no idea how screwed up I was. Turns out, when you're hurt, when you're confused, when you're angry, you often you'll self-destruct, right? You'll do things and you're trying to sort of subconsciously probably destroy what's the hurt inside of you. But if you're not doing it with some focused, conscious attention and really understand what you're doing, then you end up, hurting yourself a lot more than necessary, and often a lot of other people, collateral damage, if you will. Maybe friendly fire, things like this that, we hear from, I don't know, warfare terms, I suppose. But not knowing how jacked up I was. I'm 56 years old, and I'm really just getting to the bottom. Just this past week, I was doing some therapy with this woman, and she told me a couple things I was very, very surprised by, oddly enough. And one is that I needed to do even more forgiving, which I've been doing this forgiving thing for a good 10 years, just trying to forgive, everybody and myself. And quite frankly, everybody's been tough, but myself, really hard to forgive me. And but then, she got down to the whole thing that I need to convince myself that I matter. And that brought tears to my eyes, because I understand that, every leaf on every one of those trees matters. Every single one of those leaves feeds a twig, that feeds a little branch, that feeds a limb, that feeds a trunk, that feeds a root system, that feeds a tree, that does an incredible amount of work, that catches all that light up there, that beautiful light, and turns it into oxygen and homes and houses and shade, and could be fire. There's just so many things that every one of those leaves gives to you, and I know they all matter, and I can see that, and it's beautiful. And that big bright shiny light up there, every single little teeny atom in there that's doing that whole, fission, fusion, big reaction, billion of years of light and gravity, incredible life-giving just beauty. I know that every single little things we can't see, little things that we have yet to discover, little things that we do not yet even understand, they matter. And I understand that, and I can appreciate it, and I can give it its due. I can give it its credit. I can give it love. I can give it whatever I've got to give. But I really struggle giving that to me, and it's kind of sad, I suppose. It's something I need to work on. So right now, kind of where all this started and where all this going. I'm doing this work. I'm digging this damn root out. I'm sweating. You know, my back hurts, and I realize, you know, that's kind of my internal state right now. Right? I've been digging this stuff out. So what am I going to put in there? So there's no one right answer, and a lot of things will tell you. Well, not a lot, but a good few solid big ones will tell you there is one right answer. And I gotta say, we all have our own answer. We all have our own path. Every single little leaf on every single little tree grows a different direction, a different way relative to that light up there, but they all do their job. And every single tree shows that there's no one way to be a tree. They all be a tree the way they own, up and towards the light, yes. But what are they rooted in? Down into those holes, into the darkness. Those little roots, until today, they never saw the light. They grew down into the darkness, and they were hard to get out, and they hold the topsoil together, and they nourish that tree, and they provide homes for little things I can't see and don't understand, don't know about. But there's no one path. But so where I was going, that hole, what am I going to fill that with? That hole in me, that empty place in my heart, that place that sometimes hurts, that place I don't understand. Yes, there's some big stuff we can do. There's big therapy we can do. There's getting better stuff at finding out ways we can actually rewire things in our brain, so neurologically we can begin to not be depressed, not be anxious, not feel worthless, not feel angry. These are the things that we need to address. So many of our the things that catch our attention on the news. Look at this, and there's some goofy guy waving his hand, insulting people, doing all kinds of silly stuff. There's people going and hurting each other in big ways. And really, we got to fill a lot of stuff up all internally. When we're all okay inside, then we'll all be okay outside, and it ain't going to go the other way around. So just me, it's all I can do. What am I going to fill that hole with? So I feel like I've got to fill it with caring about myself, loving myself, from the most simple things, getting a good night's sleep, taking some time to meditate, taking some time to be grateful, taking some time to love me, taking some time to properly nourish my body for the season I'm in, the place I'm in, with hopefully very, healthy and non-toxic food that doesn't hurt me, that doesn't mess up my ability to stay, in a place of feeling safe and feeling secure and feeling nourished, and hopefully to feel I'm loved, and then go out and interact with people that will be supportive and not constantly tearing me down and not judging me and not trying to hurt me with their hurt or confuse me with their confusion. And I've got to fill that hole first with the light. Does it so admirably, right? The atmosphere does it so admirably. All the little things that we can't see. There's all kinds of fun little things, little biological things going on there. There's the gravity holding it all down, and it's just a beautiful thing. But we've got to be more intentional. I've got to be more intentional. How am I going to fill that hole? What can I learn from that structure right there on how I can grow what I want to grow inside of me? I think I know what I need to do, and I just have to do it. And it's not a one-time thing. I mean, how beautiful, it took me a few fires and a couple swings of the axe and, digs of the shovel and some sweating and some pulling and grunting. But it's going to take me the rest of my life to do the work I need to do to fix me and to keep me where I need to be, to keep me growing in love and healing and creating that which I choose and which I want to perpetuate and to move forward, and also, yes, destroying the things that will tear me down, the things that will cause me to hurt. And it's okay, we're going to feel pain, but we don't have to, as we hear, we don't have to suffer, and we don't have to share it. We don't have to burden other people We don't have to hurt other people. We don't really have to hurt ourselves. Yes, there'll be some pain, but we don't have to. We don't have to just keep shoving it out in everyone's face and bringing everybody down. But these are all me, really. When I say we, it's me. It's all I can do. It's all I can do. But I am so grateful for that stump right there, that tree. I never saw it in its glory. I never saw it up, growing like all these other beautiful trees. When I found it, it had fell. It had been cut and just left as a stump. Been left as a problem for me to deal with. And just being a stump, just being rooted in the ground, it taught me something for which I will always be grateful for. So thanks to that tree, thanks to all the trees, thanks to the light, and thank you to all of you. Cheers.